Okay.
Sure. And so later on, perhaps some people may log in later and view it as well. Okay, that's
Yes.
wonderful.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting anyway, and I'll clue people in as they come in, and we'll just keep it moving from there, and we'll be good. So let me just get my little document here.
And then when you have a moment, if you can enable the screen sharing, then I can put up my presentation as well.
Absolutely. I will make you a co-host.
Awesome.
And I will give you that. I have Mary coming in. Good. All right. It's working out. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. For those that have joined us, my name is Sheila Green. I'm your host for PBCIP's monthly community meeting. Parkside Business and Community in Partnership is what PBCIP stands for. Tonight, we are going to talk about heart health, and we're going to talk about it with one of our area doctors from Virtua. But before we get started, as we always do all of our meetings, we're going to start with a short prayer, and just to let you know that we are all under the same guidelines. So good evening to all, and we will start our prayer at this point. Father in heaven, all creators, universal, everything that there is, we come to you humbly, thanking you for the life that you have given us, thanking you for the life that you have gotten us through. We ask tonight that you lead us in a direction to empower us to know more so that we can do better for not just ourselves, but for each other. For these things, we are very grateful because we know that nothing has failed as we have been guided by you. So as we go forward, we thank you for all things, and we look forward to a great evening that is going to be all dedicated to your worthiness. In the name of our Father, and in the name of who we believe is our Creator. Amen.
Amen.
So, just to get started, to let you know that PBCIP is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our invited speakers are donate their time and expertise to educate and enlighten our community audiences. Part of our general outline is to empower people, and Parkside is where we start. Tonight, we have as one of our major guests, a heart specialist. Her name, I'm going to get it right, just as sure as my name is Sheila. Her name is Haviza Sheikh. She is a clinical cardiologist with Virtua Cardiology who specializes in you get me right, doctor, is it cardiology?
Echocardiography.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh my God, these words are incredible. Transophilial.
Yeah, no problem. I can give you a brief blurb.
Thank you.
But transit, yeah, no problem. So so thank you so much for the warm welcome and for having me tonight. I've heard wonderful things about the group that I'll be speaking with tonight. So thank you everybody for attention at 6 o'clock in the middle of the week. So this is wonderful, and thanks to my friend Mary is on the line who helped to facilitate this connection.
Yes,
as well.
Thank you, Mary.
Parkside. So thank you, Mary. So I am a cardiologist with Virtua Health, and I'm a non-invasive cardiologist, which means that I specialize in the non-surgical aspects of cardiology, which is trying to do as much as we can with medications, testing, and treatment that we can. So this way, one doesn't get to the point where they do require surgery or other procedures. So I titled this tonight, Heart to Heart with Parkside. It is Heart Month as well as Black History Month. So it's a pretty exciting February for everybody. And hopefully my aim is to give you some really good information to arm yourselves with helpful information about preventative disease. The old adage is true about an ounce of prevention being worth more than a pound of cure. So I aim to just educate you a little bit about heart disease and what it encompasses, also how to be your own best advocate when you do speak with a physician. And I also want to let you know about a couple of the resources that we have available at Virtua. So, I've been working with the Camden community for a long time, for, over a decade, mainly at the Virtua Our Lady of Lourdes facility. And we also recently opened up an office that's on Atlantic Avenue, near Mount Ephraim Avenue and Boys Funeral Home, if you're familiar with that area. So we're really excited to have an office space as well in Camden too. So this way people don't have to drive too far to follow up with our very talented cardiology team that we have. So feel free, if you'd like, when I'm speaking, if you want to drop any questions in the chat, and otherwise I can also entertain questions at the end as well too. So prevalence. So when we talk about heart disease is the leading cause of death in our country here. So the amount of people that die every year, unfortunately, just increases each year. And half of these heart attacks actually occur in people under the age of 65. So this means there isn't a lot of age discrimination. So certainly the risk of heart disease and heart events will happen at a higher rate when we age, but it doesn't mean that any of us are benign and saved from this necessarily. So we no longer consider it a disease of the elderly. So in particular, I want to focus a little bit about stress tonight. So unfortunately, none of us are immune to stress. And I think the last couple of years in particular probably drove up everybody's stress levels quite a bit above the norm, unfortunately. But it is manageable. And I'll tell you a little bit about why we need to manage it as well, too. So in terms of calming your mind and helping to heal your heart. So when we talk about stress, we talk about it in the forms of anger. It could be in the form of depression, a combination of different things as well. And in general, it's normal for us to feel stressed. This is a normal reaction to what's going on in life. And there's a good adage that I had seen before too, which said, life is full of these ups and downs. And if it wasn't full of these ups and downs, it would just be flat and we'd be dead. So that means there will inevitably be a lot of highs and lows that occur both in our lives and the lives of our loved ones that may affect us as well too. And that's okay as long as our bodies and our minds can adapt to that and know how to handle it without internalizing it such to the point that then it becomes damaging to our own health. So in small dosages, stress is just an alert to life's challenges, but in large dosages, it can definitely strain your heart as well. We know a lot about how the heart and the mind are interconnected, and there's a lot of data to also substantiate and say that large amounts of stress actually can lead to inflammation in the body and stressors as well. And I'm sorry, can you hear background noise for me, or am I coming through okay? Good. Okay, great. Thank you. So chronic stress and depression, however, by themselves can also be a risk factor for heart disease because it's creating this stress over time and therefore this inflammation as well too. The other thing that can happen is you can have a chain reaction. So what that means is you may feel stressed from what's going on. Your body has this internal reaction as well too, where it's reacting to this. And then that stress releases the internal hormones, things like epinephrine or adrenaline that we often speak about as well. But once the adrenaline is released, guess what? That actually then speeds up our heart rate and speeds up our blood pressure. And so now this adds to even more stress going on because we can feel that. And then we can feel that we don't feel so well. And it basically builds upon itself in a vicious cycle. In addition, stress actually raises your blood sugar because this is part of what we call the fight or flight response, where your body is sensing that there's something going on. There's a stress or there's a war going on and we need to react. So those are the different ways that our heart and our body will react to this. Now, after the stress subsides, your blood pressure, your heart rate, everything should come down to a nice calm state again. But you want to make sure that that happens for a long enough duration that now your body has time to recover before, God forbid, the next stressor comes upon also. So how do we do that? How do we make sure that we're getting enough of that down regulation and relief from stress? So, we call that lowering the temperature. So sometimes you have to call a good old timeout. So this means you step away from the situation that is creating stress as much as you can, whether that physically means stepping away or hanging up the phone or, what it may entail in a particular situation, and taking some calm, deep breaths. So this way you can collect your thoughts and then adjust your body's reaction. So, believe it or not, these calm, deep breaths, they actually force your heart rate and your blood pressure to both calm down and have that time to recover. So they really do help. How else can we outlet the stress, we can exercise, we can go for a walk, a bike ride, a swim. These are great ways to get the stress out in a physical way, such that this way your body's not internalizing it, and this way it can exit your body in a very productive way in some of these ways as well too. The other thing you can do is do an activity that you enjoy. This means maybe watching TV, maybe listening to a book or listening to music, and trying to maybe even talking to a friend sometimes can happen as well. Meditation is very helpful as well too. And nowadays there's actually a couple free apps. Some of them were spawned during the pandemic as well too, which can actually help you with the stress relief and help you with that calmness. One of them is called Calm, and the other one is called Headspace. So very cool. The other activities that can also help with that too are yoga and Tai Chi. These are really nice. They're physical exercises technically, but they really help effectively with lowering the stress levels. And for anybody who's familiar with yoga and Tai Chi, has anyone here, for a show of hands, tried yoga before? Yeah. Yeah. So if you notice, there's a lot of deep breathing that's also involved in yoga as well too. So going back to what we spoke about, right, with the deep breaths and just making your body calm down its physical reaction to stress. The other thing is there's resources out there, right? There's counselors, therapists, stress management programs. Virtual has a stress management program as well too. And remember, it's impossible to stay completely happy all the time. But instead, if we can acknowledge and just validate that it's okay to feel these emotions and feel the way that we feel, sometimes that's part of the initial battle as well too. Just knowing that it's okay to feel this way. And anybody who says that life is rosy all the time, it's not. It's just that they have a very rosy way of handling it. I heard a really good quote once too that pertains to this very well, which is, we cannot control the temperature, we cannot control the weather, but we can control the thermostat. So I think that was very powerful in terms of just understanding what we can control in life and what we can't, and how we can do so. So also we say, make sure you take a moment for yourself to look at yourself and see what kind of healthy habits you have or unhealthy habits you have and where things can be modified. So this is an example of our mobile food pantry, mobile grocery store that was launched just about a year and a half ago, which has been really neat because it's been able to go out to a couple different neighborhoods in South Jersey, and amazing, great fresh farm vegetables are being sold on this, amongst other food products as well too. So we've been really happy to have this launched, and hopefully you'll get to see this in your community and can visit it. And generally the times that they're visiting are pretty well advertised as well too. So hopefully you'll get to partake in this as well. The other thing is we have a publication called Heart Talk that's sent out, and it's sent out 4 times a year. So it's a good enough frequency where it's a good check-in point as well for yourself to just say, okay, where am I? How am I doing at this point? How am I doing in terms of my weight, my blood pressure, my stress levels, my activity levels? So Heart Talk, if you're interested in enrolling, you can just email Josh Bernstein here at jbernstein@virtua.org and just send him your full name and mailing address, and we can have you signed up for that completely free publication. And it's a really great reminder and has some of the resources listed there as well too that we have available for you. So this is just, a little example. I like to make sure that I can include in a little bit of a visual as well too in terms of heart disease. So the heart it's complex. We have our own plumbing system, we have our own electrical system, and then we have our own nourishment system as well too. Some of these are related to each other and some of them are totally independent. But just, when we talk about atherosclerosis or hardening of the arteries, you may have heard, basically these arteries are very important pipes that run around our heart and supply the heart with nutrition. So that way the heart can be a strong organ to then get the blood to the rest of your organs. So this is just an example of what we can see with heart disease, where these pipes are narrowed over. And this is reversible, this is treatable, but requires a really good plan of care, both with the person and with their healthcare provider. So, and the whole point is, again, if we can control blood pressure, control our stress, control cholesterol, such that we can prevent an event from happening, that's a win. Unfortunately, though, sometimes for various reasons, maybe people have not been able to care for their health. And again, there's a multitude of reasons that are not necessarily one's fault either. But when it gets to the point where then it's created heart events, we consider that a little bit disappointing, right? Because we had it in our hands potentially, not all the time, but at least some of the time to have prevented it. But that's what we're here for. And that's what Virtue is here for too, is we want to try to take care of the preventative stage. So this way we can prevent situations in the future before they do damage and get to this point. So, so this is put out by the American Heart Association, and it's called Life Simple 7. And I love it because it's a very good breakdown about the major 7 risk factors, which do contribute to creating heart disease over time. So number 1 is to control the cholesterol. And cholesterol is a pretty complex thing. So we know that when we draw the cholesterol, there's a total of 4 numbers that are going to show up on your blood work results. And you want to go over those 4 numbers. So when you go in to see your primary care provider or your cardiologist, you want to ask specifically. A lot of times we may just look at the total cholesterol number, which is okay. It's nice to compare that over the years and see where you lie in a frame of reference. But you also want to know, what's my good cholesterol? What's my bad cholesterol? What's my triglycerides as well too? So that totals up the 4 components within the cholesterol profile. And, you know, write it down, take a picture, keep a record of that yourself too. So this way you can track it over the months and the years as well too, to see how you're doing. Number 2 is to eat better. So everybody says, you know, what's a great diet, or what should I follow? You know, there's no magic recipe, obviously, to prevent heart disease, but we do know that out of the different diets that are out there, the Mediterranean diet is an example of one, which has some really good and somewhat loose guidelines as well, too, to help guide and reduce heart events. So again, it's called the Mediterranean diet. And, you know, even just taking a look at the basic guidelines of it are super helpful, just to know that there's an emphasis on lean proteins, vegetables, natural fats, and a de-emphasis on processed starches and processed foods and fried foods. And a lot of this is stuff that you may already know, but I think it's great sometimes to refer and read on these items as well too, just because it gives you a good reminder and a good guideline. So the next time you're at the grocery store or the mobile grocery store, it can help you make some great choices. So losing weight, unfortunately, an astounding percentage of New Jersey and of the country are overweight and obese. So know your BMI. The BMI is the number that we actually use to measure the ratio of your weight and your height. So ask your doctor, say, what's my BMI? Because once it's above 25, that's overweight, and above 30 is obese. And once you get above 25, there is a correlation with heart disease in the future too. So getting active is important. And again, there's no magic number. It differs per person, but certainly getting a total of 120 to 150 minutes per week total of something that gets your heart rate up is a good guideline to keep the heart in good shape. And managing your blood pressure. So same thing as I said for the cholesterol, track these numbers, know your numbers, write them down, keep a log either in your phone or on paper, you know, as well too, between doctor's visits or when you measure it at home. Reducing the blood sugar, because we do know that diabetes and prediabetes is an epidemic in our country as well too, and stopping smoking. So stopping smoking is the single best way to actually reduce heart attack and stroke risk. And it's probably one of the most difficult ones to modify, but it is the one that's the most impactful and important. So, all right, so thank you so much. I wanted to let you know, so our office in Camden here is the 1000 Atlantic Avenue. If anyone's familiar with the virtual primary care office that's there, we're not in that exact building, but we're actually in the ER that's across the street. So it's the virtual freestanding ER that's on Atlantic Avenue. And for a landmark, we're actually right next to the Boyd's Funeral Home in that section. So feel free to give us a call. You can use either of these phone numbers to get an appointment scheduled at the Camden office as well too. So I am more than happy to entertain some questions. If anybody has any questions, you have free time with the cardiologist right now.
And just to be clear, the doctor is a doctor and she does have a schedule, and we are going to actually, if it's not a problem, make sure that her hard stop is at 6:30 exactly. So, Doc, I would like to ask a question. How often per year should you have some type of an exam that included like what you call, I guess, an all-inclusive thing of your heart? And which machinery or which operation do they do? Is that a CAT scan, or is there something that they do specifically to actually just, check the whole heart and all the chambers and how things are running?
Great question. So an annual visit once a year is definitely good to start off with. So this way you can get your blood pressure. You want to get basic blood work drawn in terms of the cholesterol, and then also an EKG. So it is possible if you're, for example, very low risk, like under the age of 40 without any medical problems, they may say you don't need an EKG every year, but just as needed. But once a year is a good time for those tests. Now, beyond those basic tests, we have a lot of other options in terms of certain types of cardiac CAT scans, certain types of stress tests too. But honestly, that really depends on your symptoms, what you're feeling, and your other risk factors. So what I mean for that, for example, somebody who's maybe 70 years old and has diabetes and already had one heart attack before, they're going to be subject to a little bit different testing than somebody who's 25, has high cholesterol, but no blood pressure, etc. So the remainder of the test, you really have to kind of talk through with your provider to see what's appropriate for you. But of course, definitely explain and express what your symptoms are, if you're feeling anything, if you're feeling any limitation with exercise, anything like that as well too. So, and one more thing I can point out as well too is Mary had put into the chat too, Virtua also has a smoking cessation program, which is great. I have referred a couple people to that as well too already, and they were fans of it. Again, tobacco cessation is probably one of the most difficult things, but one of the most important things. So please, anybody who is using tobacco to, heavily consider that, and make sure you talk to the loved ones in your life too who may be using tobacco, just to, sometimes every reminder and every nudge is positive and can lead to more successful tobacco cessation.
So does any of the ladies out there have any questions for the doctor? I mean, heart health is one of the things that we don't talk about enough, and women are under the most stress right now with everything that has happened during this pandemic. We have become like, we are now the Avengers, okay? Because we do everything. And it's really hard. So please, we got a few minutes, ask the doctor anything that you had been questioning or whatever, like, feeling, even if it's personal, something that you felt, ask her. You have an opportunity. You don't get 10 minutes with a doctor.
Okay, quick question. I was actually looking at the medications that I take. And, my goal is to get off these medications. And so, like a statin, I've read that once you get on a statin, that you'll never get off a statin, and I'm taking a statin for my high cholesterol. Is that true, or how does that work?
Yeah.
Also taking stuff for high blood pressure. I'm taking 2 medications for high blood pressure. And so, I'm like, at what point can you get off some of these meds?
Yeah, great question. And I have to say that is a great question too, because sometimes people are hesitant to even start the medication to begin with, because they are told that it's going to be, habit forming, or they'll become dependent on it to a certain degree. So, to answer first about the cholesterol. So cholesterol, it is a reversible situation. So, I've had people where maybe they're having takeout and fast food 2-3 days a week, and probably indulging a little bit more, maybe in alcohol, for example. So even though they're on a medicine, I put them on a statin medication, and then they start to modify their lifestyle and their diet, we then will start to lower the medication of the cholesterol if they're not already on the lowest dosage, and then recheck. So there's always a recheck that happens. We don't recheck every month because it's not enough time to really make a difference, but usually at least every 3 months. So 3 to 6 months, depending on the person, we'll recheck to see if the numbers are going down. But absolutely, and I have removed medications before when people have either changed their diet or had a different lifestyle or lost weight if they were really overweight or obese too. So that definitely can be reversed. The one time when maybe you can't stop a statin for the cholesterol is, for example, if you've already had heart disease or already had a stroke, you will need to be on a cholesterol medication lifelong, not so much for the numbers, but just because we know that once you've already had an event, the chance of you having a second event is extremely high. And again, we don't want any recurrent heart attacks or any recurrent strokes after you've already had one. So that's where that, may not come off. The second question about the blood pressure medications. So that's a tough one, because usually with age, your blood pressure only gets higher. So to kind of give you an example, if you are 60 and get started on one medication for blood pressure, and then 5 years later you get put on a second medication for blood pressure, and then 2 years down the road you're saying, well, how come I can't get off of this? But unfortunately, as time progresses and as age goes on, there is a higher chance that you would have needed to be treated for the blood pressure anyway. So it's not that the medication makes you dependent, but it's usually that whatever the underlying cause was that was creating high blood pressure just continues, whether it's a high sodium diet, whether it's untreated sleep apnea, whether it's being overweight, whether it's having a ton of really salty food in the diet over the years, or if it's just genetics and that was going to affect you at some age anyway. Because there is a huge genetic component to a lot of these conditions as well too. Did that make sense? So the short answer is no, it's not true. It really depends on a case-by-case basis.
Well, I figured in my case, I have all those presenting factors, that you mentioned: overweight, bad diet. I forgot what the last one was.
Genetics, or?
Well, not genetics. There were things, okay. Controllable things. There were 3 that you mentioned. So okay. I'm exercise. And so I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm changing my diet. I'm
awesome
exercising. And so I'm, my prayer is that I can get off, if not both of them, at least one of them.
That's fantastic. We are cheering you on. You've got a whole cheer squad here. So we're gonna hold you accountable to making sure that your goals, are made as well.
The problem is I'm in that age range where, you said your blood pressure is going up. So, but I'm gonna still fight it. I'm gonna fight the good fight.
Good, absolutely, absolutely. Because you know what, you may be preventing yourself from being on maybe some additional medicine 5 years down the road anyway. So no, that's fantastic. But I can tell you, I get happier taking off a medication from somebody than adding it. Because remember, every time a doctor adds on a medicine, it's actually more of a headache for us, because we have to watch out for side effects, monitor the medicine, and make sure it's covered by the insurance. I'm much happier removing a medicine than putting it on.
Absolutely. That was a great question, because most of the time people do not think about actually ever getting off of anything. It's like they think it's going to just be there forever, but it doesn't have to be. So yes, we're cheering you on. Yes, we're going to be your whole squad. We'll be on you like white on rice. You know what that means. So making sure that you're getting that diet right, and, take pictures. Be proud of what you do. I think it's going to work out well. Because your mind is already made up. So just do it. That's it.
And you may inspire somebody else here in the group too.
Exactly. Age is never a factor. It's all about how we feel. It's all about what we think. So if there's any more questions, I got 2 minutes left for the doctor, and then she will disappear. Anyone else can raise your hand, and I can acknowledge you, or you can open up your mic and we can start. I have one last question. It's a short question. If you had a murmur as a child, would you still continue to have that through the rest of your life?
Yeah, so great question. Some murmurs are actually just of childhood, and they do disappear. You kind of grow out of them. There are the murmurs that usually happen in adulthood. Those usually stay permanently. Okay. Yeah, and there's lots. Most murmurs are actually benign. It's less murmurs that are actually more, potential for a problem in the future. Most of them actually end up being benign.
Oh, wow. That's great to know. That answers my granddaughter, myself, and a few other people in my house. So that's a great answer. Thank you so much. So, Dr. Sheikh, I appreciate this more than I can tell you. I would love to have you come back and speak to the women in next month's group, actually, because it's Women's Health Month. And this is something they should really, really hear from you, because this was excellent.
Great. Yeah, I have a ton of information about that. So let's see if we can connect offline, see if we can make that happen.
Absolutely. Mary is our connector. So we thank her so very much for everything. and we look forward to, having you back. So I'm letting you go at 6:30. I'll talk
Thank
to
you
you
so
soon.
much, everybody, for your time.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So a little technical here. Let me go into my tech thingies and do some things. Oh, I'm learning so much in such a short amount of time. All right. So I see I have my next guest that asked the very great question, seeing that I can't find very many other men on this thing. So Mr. Reginald Clay, senior at that. I know him through mutual person, our CEO, Bridget Pfeiffer, and she sent me a bio for me to read. He's an insurance guru with over 40 years experience in the finance and the insurance industry, currently an independent broker with Senior Life and Transamerica. Reggie is committed to supporting Black and Brown community families with building wealth for future generations. So to have someone here to explain to you, insurance, which is one of the most knowledgeable and unknowledgeable things at the same time, this is where you're supposed to chime in. This is ask your questions, get your pens and papers out, look at this to be recorded again or to watch the recording again, because this is the things that we need to know. I have been stuck on term, universal, and whole life all my life trying to figure it out. So tonight I'm going to get an answer.
Okay. First of all, good evening, everyone. It's a blessing to be able to talk to you tonight about life insurance. A very important topic, and one that I don't think our community takes full advantage of. I'm going to give you a little example. In the Jewish community, when somebody passes away, they celebrate because they know that that person has plenty of insurance to leave to their heirs. And that's a way that they build wealth in their community. And so when you think about life insurance, we don't think about it in terms of wealth, creating wealth. So I'm going to give you some fundamental things. Sheila, your question is a little bit more advanced. I'm going to cover some basic things tonight. First of all, life insurance. There are two basic types of life insurance. There's term insurance, and then there's permanent insurance. Another name for permanent insurance is whole life insurance. And then we're going to talk about why do we need life insurance? And the last thing we're going to talk about is creating a legacy. So those are the three topics that we're going to talk about tonight. So the types of insurance, and you've probably heard these terms, term insurance and permanent insurance, or whole life insurance. And they're very different, and they're used for different things. Term insurance is just what it says. It's insurance for a specific period of time, a term. And it's relatively inexpensive. And you can purchase a large amount of insurance for an inexpensive price. And so term insurance is basically insurance is a contract between you and the insurance company. And basically saying, if you apply for insurance and you gave us all the correct information, we did our due diligence to approve you. And as long as you pay your premiums, then if you were to pass away, we would pay to your beneficiary the face amount of that policy. So basically, life insurance is a contract. So with term insurance, that contract is for a specific period of time. So it can be for 5 years, it can be for 10 years, it can be for 20 years, it can be for 30 years. There are also plans for 40 years. And so what happens is the insurance company is betting that you're not going to die before the end of the term. And they've already calculated, of all the policies they sell, they know a certain number of people are going to die before that term. But most of the people are not going to die before that term. Okay, so if you have a 10-year, well, the most common one is a 30-year term policy. Okay, and so you get a insurance policy for 30 years. Okay, now if you pass away 30 years in one day, well, you have no benefit because that contract is terminated after 30 years. And somebody would say, well, why would I buy insurance that I'm never going to collect from? Okay, and there's a good reason why you would do that. Okay, and we're going to go into that a little bit later. The second type of insurance is permanent insurance, and it's the complete opposite of term insurance. Permanent insurance says that we're going to cover you for your whole life. That's where you get the term whole life. So initially, those policies were good for 100 years. I think now they term them out, they go out to 120 years. And what that means is at the end of 100 years, they would just pay you whatever the face amount of the policy was. They didn't care if you died or not. They would just give you the money. Now it's out to 120 years. So basically, that policy is going to be enforced as long as you pay your premiums for your whole life. Okay. So, and those premiums tend to be a little bit higher because the company knows they're going to pay you because they know you're going to die at some point and they know they're going to have to pay. They just hope that you live a long life. And both these policies, the insurance companies hoping that you live a long life. They don't have to pay, or they pay sometime in the way, way, way future, and you pay a lot of premiums to the company. Okay. So those are the two basic types of insurance. You have term, which I look at like renting an apartment. When you rent an apartment, you sign a lease. That means you can live at that place for a certain period, whether it's 1 year, 2 years. Okay. And when the lease is up, you have to go. So same thing with the insurance. When the term is up, you don't have any more insurance. Okay. Permanent insurance or whole life insurance is like buying a house. It has more permanence to it. You're going to live in that house as long as you want. So those are the different types of insurance. Now, term insurance, you have all kinds of variations of a basic term policy. Okay, you could have renewable term. That means you buy a 1-year term policy and it renews every year. Okay. Now, with renewable term, you're as long as you pay your premiums, you will have that insurance. But guess what? Every year it goes up because you get older. So that's a renewable term. And so the initial premium is very cheap. And every year it will go up until eventually it will become too expensive for you to keep. But that's one type of term policy. So you might have a 5-year renewable term. So the premium is the same for 5 years, and then it goes up for another 5 years, and then it will go up for another 5 years. Those are renewable term policies. Then you have different types of permanent insurance. Okay, you can have straight whole life insurance where you pay your premiums. And with the difference between a term policy and a permanent policy is that the permanent policies, some will build up cash value in the policy. So the actual policy will become one of your assets. Because if you keep a whole life policy for 10, 20 years, it will have significant cash value in that policy. And what you can do with that cash value is you can borrow that money, or you can actually cash out the policy. Okay, so if you have a $100,000 policy and you had it for 20 years and the cash value was like $25,000, you're like, I don't need that insurance anymore. I'll cash it in and I'll take the $25,000. Okay, so just to basically now, the more sophisticated permanent insurance, there's variable and universal life policies where you can invest the cash value in the stock market. Okay, and so those policies build up cash value based on the stock market if you want to invest. And in those policies, you can actually put money into those policies. and it builds up. And the benefit of having a policy like that is the money builds up tax-free. Okay, so you don't have to pay any taxes on the gain. And we have vehicles like that we offer to people as a alternative to a 401k or 403b. Okay, because you can build up cash in those policies and you can take that money out tax-free. So that's a little wrinkle. Okay, so let's go to the next point. Why do we need life insurance? You know, a lot of people I talk to say, I don't care what happens to me when I die. You know, let somebody else deal with it. I'm dead, I don't care. Okay, but most people are responsible and they do care about what happens after they leave here. So the biggest, most important thing about having life insurance is to cover your final expenses. How many times has somebody passed away and we have to pass the hat? Or you get those phone calls from a family member, so-and-so passed away and we're trying to get money for their funeral. And so every person at minimum should have a final expense policy. Okay, and those policies are designed to cover your final expenses. And if you have 3 or 4 different policies, you still should have a final expense policy. One of the reasons why you want a final expense policy is because when you pass away, the first thing the funeral director is going to ask you is, do you have insurance? And if you have a $50,000 policy, they're going to do their best to give you a $50,000 funeral. Okay. Matter of fact, when you come into the funeral home, all the prices are going to change. The same casket was $5,000 is now going to be $7,500. The one that was $10,000 is going to be $15,000. They're just going to put different prices on all the stuff. All the prices are going to go up. They're going to use up all the money that you have in your policy. Have a $50,000 policy, they're going to give you $20,000 funeral, and then your family will get the other $30,000. So it's better to have a final expense policy where it's designed just to cover your funeral. $10,000, $5,000. That money is just to cover your funeral. And the company that I work with, which is Senior Life, they have a sister program, which we call our Legacy program, whereby they have a company that's designated to work with your family to make sure that you get the best prices at the funeral home. They actually do the shopping for you. They'll compare prices and they'll assist the family in terms of making your final arrangements. Not only that, they'll guarantee that your casket, your headstone, and the vault that the casket goes in, the price of that will be no more than $4,000. Can be as low as $3,000. And if you whenever you sign up, it's a guarantee for whenever you pass away. So that's a benefit to having a final expense policy. That's just for your final expenses. And that will help you, your family, when that time comes, to be able to work with the funeral home and get you the best price for the best service that you want. The next reason why you would need life insurance is what we call income replacement. Okay, so most families depend on somebody to be the breadwinner. So if you take the breadwinner out of the house, what happens to the family? So what you want to do is you want to have life insurance to replace that income. Okay, so we'll stop right there, put a pin in it right there. We talked about a final expense policy. Well, those policies are whole life policies because they're for your final expenses. We know you're going to pass away, so you don't want a term policy. You want a permanent policy. Okay, now we're talking about income replacement. Okay, so what do you need to replace the income for? Well, if you have children, okay, you want to make sure that there's going to be enough money to pay the bills, keep them in the same home so they don't have to change schools, to maintain the same lifestyle that while you were living and working, So you want that money to be able to replace your income. So you don't need a permanent policy to replace that income. You need a term policy because the kids, you're not taking care of the kids forever. So what we say is you need a term for 20 years past the youngest child. So if you have a 3-year-old child, then you need, you need at least 17, 18 years to cover your income during that time period. So we know that that child will be taken care of. So if you have a husband and wife, both of them are working, and more than likely you're depending on both of those income, you have a policy on both the husband and the wife. So if something happens to either one of them, the lifestyle doesn't change. Okay? If it's just a single parent, then you want to make sure that there's money to take care of your kids. Okay? You don't just leave it on your mother or your sister or your brother to be able to take care of your kids. You got money put aside for those kids. Okay? And the beauty of life insurance is and we talk about you speaking from the grave. Okay? Because people think that, oh, I got a $100,000 policy. All of a sudden, my kids are going to have $100,000. They're going to go out and buy a car. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They're going to have a big party and everything like that. Next thing you know, the $100,000 is different. No, you can set it up so they get a certain amount of money every month. Okay? For 10 years or 20 years. So they can't blow that money. Okay? You giving them money to live off of. Not the party, just money to make sure the rent is paid, they have food, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's a feature of insurance. All right, so we talked about final expenses. We talked about income replacement. And the last thing we're going to talk about, the reason why you need life insurance. Life insurance creates an immediate estate. All right? Most people, when they die, their estate is basically their house, their car, their clothes, their furniture. It's not a lot. Okay? Now, wealthy people, we hear about them having big estates. You hear people fighting over the estate. Like, he loved me more, I should get more, et cetera, et cetera. But what life insurance does, it creates an immediate estate. So you die, all of a sudden you have a $100,000 estate. But the beauty of life insurance, it bypasses all types of estate taxes. That's why we say it's an immediate estate. The money goes directly to your beneficiaries, tax-free. Okay, nobody can touch that money. None of your debtors, none of your creditors can touch that money. None of your children's or your beneficiaries' creditors or debtors can touch that money. It's protected. That check will go directly to them from the insurance company. Okay, so that's the reason why we buy life insurance. And the last thing I want to talk about is legacy. Okay, and so insurance can be used for a legacy. And what do I mean by that? Okay, once again, you may want to make sure that there's money for your kids, your grandkids to go to college. Okay, that's a legacy that you're leaving money so to make sure they have money to go to college. You may want to leave money so that your children can buy a house, the down payment of a house. That's a legacy. You may want to give some money to your church. That's a legacy. Okay, you may have a favorite community organization like PBCIP that you want to leave some money to. That's a legacy. The Red Cross, or the American Cancer Society. Some of these organizations may have affected your life, and you say, "Listen, when I go, I want to leave them some money because they were good to me while I was here." Okay, so that's a legacy. So you can use life insurance for a legacy. Okay, so those are some basic things about life insurance. And the last thing I'm going to talk about, well, how much does life insurance cost? Well, I told you up front that term insurance is much cheaper than permanent insurance. And life insurance is based on your age and your health. So the younger you are and the healthier you are, the less expensive insurance is. Okay, so the older you get and the more health issues you have, the more expensive life insurance becomes. Okay, and then there's the other thing where you can become uninsurable. Okay, so your health can deteriorate to a point where you're uninsurable. And so, which is very rare instances today, because in the insurance market today, we have what are called guaranteed issue policies. So they don't care what your health condition is. They're going to give you a life insurance policy, but they will not pay any total benefits for the first 3 years. So if you die within the first 3 years, what they'll do is they'll give you, your family, all the premiums you paid plus 5 or 10% interest. But if you die after 3 years, they will get the full face amount of the policy. And that's called a guaranteed issue policy. One company that was very popular, we see the commercials all the time, is Colonial Penn. The $9.99 plan. Okay, that is a guaranteed issue policy. So with that policy, you're not going to get in coverage for the first 2 or 3 years. And the $9.99 is the price for a unit. And a unit is like $1,000 worth of insurance. So if you want $10,000, well, at $9.99, that's going to cost you $99.99. So that's the $9.99 plan. Okay. Once again, that's what they don't tell you all those details in the commercial. They sounds very good. And, a lot of people have Colonial Penn insurance. They've been in business a long time. And most people will live past that first 2 or 3 years. So they just have a permanent insurance policy that they paid for, and they're happy with it. The last thing I want to talk about, and this is just a little bit important, that during the first 2 years of any insurance policy, there's a period what the insurance company calls a contestability period. So that means during those first two years of your policy, if you pass away, the insurance company can contest that policy. They want to make sure that everything you told them on the application is true. Okay? So for instance, say you have a heart condition. Okay? And when you apply for the insurance, they ask, do you have any heart problems? You said no. Ever had a heart attack? No. Any strokes? No. Okay. And you pass away in the first year of a heart attack. Well, the insurance company is going to do some investigating. They're going to contact your doctor's office and ask for your medical records. And they're going to see that you already had heart problems, and so forth and so on. So they're not going to pay that policy. Okay. So it's very important when you get insurance that you tell the truth, because we never know when we're going to die. And I'm going to end with 2 stories about life insurance. The first one is the first policy I sold as a life insurance agent. So this is in the early 80s. I was actually training. There was a company called A.L. Williams, and I was doing my training sales. My ex-wife at the time, she had a good friend. Her name was Frankie, and her and my ex were best of friends. They were always together, and Frankie had a little boy the same age as my son, and they were always together. And so I met Frankie's husband, Henry, at birthday parties, at different parties, and so forth and so on. And Henry and I were okay, but we weren't close. But anyway, I wanted to do my training sale. So I called Frankie and Henry and I said, let me come over and talk to you about insurance. So went over there, and Henry was in the military. So he had a $30,000 life insurance policy from the military. Now, meanwhile, they had a big house. The house at that time was worth well over 200,000. And once again, they had the young son, and I think they had an older son too. So Henry needed a lot more than $30,000 worth of insurance. So we ended up selling him a $100,000 policy, knowing that we were going to come back and sell him some more because he needed more. But it was a training sale, 100,000. Let's get out of here. We made the sale. About a week later, it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. I get a call. It's Frankie. And I'm like, Frankie, why are you calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning? She said, it's Henry. I said, what's wrong? She said, he's dead. I hadn't given them the policy yet. Okay, Henry had died in a bad car accident. So, you know, they did all the investigations and it made sure that we had got all the right information on his application and everything. And I took Frankie a check for $200,000 because double indemnity. So if you have a life insurance policy, most of them will have an accidental death benefit to it, which will pay double. So gave her a check for $200,000. Do you know Frankie was mad at me and didn't talk to me? She was so upset. I brought her a check for $200,000. She was mad at me because I didn't sell Henry more insurance. And while we were sitting at that table, Frankie was upstairs, walking around, doing laundry, doing other stuff. She wasn't even paying attention to what we was doing down there. She was mad. At the time, she was an airline stewardess. I think she worked like 3 days a week or something like that. She was mad because she had to still work. So that's one story. The next story I'm gonna tell you is a very personal story. I have 4 brothers. And my father, well, let me say, my mother was a homemaker, housewife. She never worked. You know, she was home, taking care of the home, taking care of me and my 4 brothers. And we had a bad fire in our house. I was 14 years old. This was 1970. And my father died as a result of the fire. He had third-degree burns over 90% of his body. And back then, they did not have the burn technology they have today. Back then, they were treating the burns on your body, like your skin and everything like that. They didn't know anything about the internal injuries that happen when you're in a fire. So he died a week later. But my father believed in insurance, and he was well insured. So my mother never had to work. She continued to be home. She didn't have to work. We got the house fixed back up. So we stayed in the same house. All my brothers went to college. And, you know, my mom was able to maintain a really nice lifestyle that my father had provided for her before he passed away. And so I tell you those 2 stories about life insurance because it really just brings home how important life insurance is. Like, I know firsthand that life insurance can, you know, provide a good life for people. You know, my father died when I was 14, and we were devastated by my father's death. I think we all went crazy. My mother, all my brothers, we all. And, you know, we didn't know anything about therapy back then. You know, Black people wasn't getting therapy back then. But it was devastating. It was devastating. And the one thing that life insurance cannot do is replace your loved one. Mm-hmm. It cannot minimize your grief. Mm-mm. But what it can do is take that financial piece off the table. Mm-hmm. How are we going to handle the final expenses? How are we going to live? How are we going to pay the rent? How are we going to pay the mortgage? Okay. How are these kids going to go to college? Okay. And that's what life insurance can do. All right. So anyway, thank you for the time. I could go on and on about life insurance because there's so many variations of life insurance. And life insurance is like a tailor-made suit. Okay. Everybody gets a different policy or policies. It has to be tailored to their situation, their budget, where they are, what they want to do in life. But life insurance is a vehicle that we as a community have not taken advantage of. Okay. When we die, we're passing the hat. When the Jewish people die, they are partying because, and what they do is they take out these $1 million policies on their kids. Okay. So they had that policy since they were a kid. And they know that their kids or the grandkids are going to start off with $1 million. So we wonder how the Jewish community is moving wealth. Well, it's all planned. And those kids will get their kids $1 million policies. And they continue to do that. So they have wealth built into their community. So they can start businesses and they can own things.
Absolutely. So Reggie, do you have information that you left in the chat so that if anybody wants to, follow up on maybe looking at insurance and maybe need more information? And if there's anybody that has any questions while we have him, I took down lots of notes, lots of them. And it's important that, you ask the questions up front. This has been a crazy time. COVID has been the most unexpected thing that we've ever experienced. Nobody knew it was coming and nobody knows when it's going to leave. Yet and still we have this number that keeps, fluctuating. One day it's a small number, the next day it's not a small number. So, having insurance and making sure that we are covering everybody, the way that we should, is highly important, especially for our grandchildren, great grandchildren, our babies. It's hard enough for us to go through what we're going through. It's hard enough. Just imagine if we are the ones that's the anchors and we're holding it down and then we leave, what are they going to do? How are they going to make it? Because they didn't learn what we know. So if you have questions for Reggie, please ask, anything, raise your hand or open your mic and we'll just talk. Sometimes I love our smaller meetings because it's very personable. So we can just talk to one another. The larger meetings, you have all these people on there and it's kind of hard to navigate. So Sergeant.
Hey, how you doing, Sheila?
I'm good.
Good. Okay, Brother Clay, I got a question regarding life insurance. I'm a police officer. Been on job for 12 years. I was in homicide and I had 4 mini strokes at that time. I was out of work for almost a year. And, I fought to come back to work. I did everything I could to come back to work. And so anyway, I had life insurance and it lapsed during that time where I was trying to come back to work from my stroke. So when I tried to re-exist or reopening up my current life insurance,
reinstate,
excuse me. And I couldn't get it. They denied me because I had a stroke right after that. It was like a mini stroke, but it was, what are the chances of me ever getting life insurance again? Being that I'm a police officer, I have this pre-existing issues.
Very good.
Good question.
The reason being is that the reinstatement piece is that the policy that you had was based on your health when you got the policy. So to reinstate that policy, you would have to have similar health. Your health would have to be similar. Okay. Since your health changed, they couldn't give you that same contract. Okay. But not meaning that you couldn't get another contract based on your present health condition. Okay. Right. And the way strokes work, it's how long ago did you have a stroke? I'm not asking.
Like 2016. Like it was.
Yeah, I'm saying that as time passes, The longer the time is between the time you had the stroke and the time you're applying for insurance, that stroke becomes less of a factor in the overall decision.
Got it.
So,
Got
you know, there was a time when if you had cancer, you would become uninsurable. That's not true today. Because the thing is that our medical advances have really improved people's life expectancy. You know, where before, if you had a medical event, your life expectancy may be less than 10 years. And today, I mean, we look at Magic Johnson, okay?
Oh, yeah.
When people got AIDS, there was, you know, it was all over. Now we can insure people with AIDS.
Yeah, very true.
So, I mean, you know, so the one thing I want to leave everybody with is that you have to go through the process to find out where you're at. A lot of people say, well, I could never get insurance. No, that's not true. Okay. And so, you know, you have to look at your situation, look at what your needs are, and look what you qualify for. And once again, as an experienced insurance agent, I can do an assessment to make sure that we're going to place you in a situation where you will get approved.
Okay.
And a lot of times what I do is, okay, because the last thing you want to do is get denied, because they have a thing called the Insurance Information Bureau. So all insurance companies share information. So if you apply to one insurance company to deny you, well, all the insurance companies know. So you can't go to one and tell them I didn't have a heart attack, and then they do the investigation, find out you did have a heart attack. Well, that information is going to be out there with all the insurance companies. So what I do is I will place you with an insurance, a product that I know you can get approved for. So you have that. And then we say, okay, let's try to get you something a little better. Okay. And you may get approved for that, you may not, but you still have what we know you can get. So that's the strategy that we use, because we know that the insurance companies, they share information, and denial is like, you know, it's hard to overcome that, because no company is like, well, if they denied you, why would we take you? So that's one thing. Great question.
Excellent question. So reach out to him, Sergeant. His number's in the chat. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
The last thing I want to, and he just touched on something. A lot of people have insurance on their jobs. One part of your benefit package is you'll get life insurance. So I'll talk to people and they say, well, I got life insurance on my job. Well, guess what? Most policies that you have in your job, they stay with the job. When you leave the job, they offer you the insurance. You could take it with you, but it's very expensive because the company more than likely was subsidizing that insurance. So, and a lot of people, like today, people aren't staying on their jobs for 50 years. Okay, so people are moving around. But in years past, a lot of seniors, they will have been on their job for 30 years and 40 years, and they will have insurance. And when they leave, part of their retirement package is insurance. But what they don't know is that it reduces. So at 65, you may have $50,000 worth of insurance. Well, at 70, it reduces to 25. At 75, it reduces to 15. And at 80, you don't have no more insurance. So you just, and the last thing I'm going to say, and this is, I'm going to end with this shit. Most people, when they get their insurance policy, they get it and they put it in a drawer somewhere.
They never read it.
They never read it. They make sure their name is spelled right. They make sure the amount is right. That's about it. Okay.
That's about it.
Okay. And so many people will tell me they have insurance. And then we pull out that policy and we review it. And we find out that it was term insurance. It wasn't permanent. This hadn't been good for 10 years. And guess what? they've been still paying the premiums.
Oh my God.
Because once you set up that automatic payment coming out of your account, the insurance company's not going to stop taking that money.
Oh, we can do
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
You gave them the money.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody gives you money. Are you going to take it?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, once
Yeah.
you realize that you weren't supposed to be giving the money, they're going to give you that money back plus interest. But the point is, you thought you had insurance. Okay. And the term
And you
expired.
did.
So
That's a hard one, Reggie. That one's a hard one. Because so many people do not know that. They think that because they have this term insurance, especially the older ones. I cannot tell you how many people. A family member of mine had accidental death and dismemberment insurance. They call it ADDs.
correct.
And she thought that she got it for her husband, and when he died, she thought she had insurance. She pulls out this ADD. They told her, there's nothing in there. That wasn't an accidental death. He died from cancer,
Natural cause.
or whatever, natural cause. So, it's important that we read these policies and have someone to explain it. There's no excuses anymore. Like, you can't tell me that, I can't spell the word, if I can spell the word poison, I can look it up. So whatever I need to know, it's in the internet. So if you need to understand some of the terminologies and the stuff that people are saying to you, just look it up. That way you're not in the dark.
Better than that, Sheila. That's something that I offer people. I will review your insurance policies with you, so you'll know exactly what you have. Okay, doesn't cost you anything, and I don't have to sell anybody anything.
Right.
My philosophy has always been, my job is to give you good information, and if I give you good information, then you can make the best decisions for yourself.
Absolutely. That's part of our empowerment. Thank you so very much.
Young man, I'm writing up his app. I'm talking to him about insurance. He's on dialysis. He's had heart attacks, and he tells me that he's got an offer for $100,000 worth of insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the cost was like $40 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I said, that's accidental insurance. That's not life insurance. And so we talked a week later, and he told me, he said, yeah, you're right. That was accidental insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I knew right off the bat, because with his health situation, he's not getting $100,000 insurance for $40 a month.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
So you have to be careful to make sure you have what you know you have. Because a lot of people are not scrupulous. They're salespeople. They will sell you something, tell you get in the world, and you find out that you have nothing.
Mm-hmm. Reggie, in New Jersey, there is the Department of Banking and Insurance, correct?
Yes. In every state, the insurance is regulated by the Department of Banking and Insurance. So each state has their own insurance commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But insurance is regulated at the state level. It's no federal. What they do is all the state insurance commissioners get together, and they kind of try to have some universal standards based on the commissioners coming together. But the states vary. So what you can do in the state of New Jersey, what state of New Jersey will allow, Pennsylvania may not allow, and vice versa.
Exactly.
So it's different from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and then Delaware.
Mm-hmm. So state by state, the insurance rules and regulations are different. So based on where you're getting your insurance from, and is that like, say for instance, we'll use Colonial Penn as the example, and they're based out of Pennsylvania. The rules and regulations of Pennsylvania, would that apply to? I live in Jersey. I'm getting insurance from Pennsylvania, so the rules of Pennsylvania is what's going to apply.
No. The rules apply to where you live, where you purchase the insurance from. Okay. So Colonial Penn has to be licensed to sell insurance in every state that they're doing business in.
Okay.
and they have to follow the rules and regulations of the state of New Jersey, North Carolina, or Georgia. Right now, I'm licensed in Georgia, North Carolina, and New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
So, what the same product in the different states may add a different wrinkle.
Mhm.
Okay, like the laws will say those guaranteed issue policies, for instance. Well, they say, listen, if you have an accidental death benefit tied to that guaranteed issue policy, well, in certain states, that accidental death benefit becomes immediate.
Mhm.
That's one of the rules of that state. In other words, there's no waiting period for the accidental death. That becomes
Mhm.
immediate the day you become approved for that policy.
Okay.
So that's just those little wrinkles that are different. It's not anything major. You're not missing anything by getting insurance in New Jersey versus Pennsylvania. Little wrinkles that most insurance company are going to set up their products so that they're good everywhere.
Right. Well, this is good. We definitely would love to have you come back and do some more of this with other groups that we would have. Like, I don't know, tonight was one of those nights. It's always February has always been that month that sometimes we get a nice crowd and sometimes we get a smaller crowd and whatever. But I accept it now. I've been doing it for a while, so I accept it as it comes. But the fact of the matter is that this is being recorded and they can see it later, which makes it even better. I'm almost happy in COVID land right now because you can hold on to things, a little bit longer because of Zoom. You don't have to say, oh, you missed the meeting and we can't tell you what happened. No, go to pbcip.org, press events, press meetings, and you'll find the meeting right there. So you can actually see it. But I appreciate this so much. I thank you so much. And I know you know about generational wealth. I want to bring you back on that one when we do some of that coverage, like when we talk about caregiving, because we're going to have a whole segment on caregiving and stuff like that, but something maybe in between that. So you let me know your availability. I'll be in touch with you. And then that way we can, do some other things. And I have your number, and everyone here, his number's in the chat. You have questions, any questions about anything that's insurance related. I would go to Reggie first, talk to him about it, let him lead you and guide you and tell you which way it's going to go. Because he does know where he's going with this thing, and the experience that he had, that story, that's the greatest story you could tell anybody, because it's a heart story, it's the real story, and people need to hear what's real. So that's what's kind of led you to where you are, probably to this very day. And your dad gave you all of what you got, so that's a good thing. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Amen.
So, ladies,
this is a message for you. I was listening to a minister, and she was talking about how she had started a ministry, and she was so frustrated because only one person was showing up. And so she had a talk with God, and God told her the ministry is not for the multitudes, it's for the one. Okay, and the multitudes will come, but you have to take care of the one. So it doesn't matter the size of the group. It's a matter of us reaching people, touching people, giving them good information. You can't get better than the doctor. She broke it down tonight.
Did she not? She broke it down.
And hopefully I was able to give you some good information. So
oh yes, so most definitely.
So that's the blessing. So do not ever look at the numbers, look at what you're doing, and remember that if you touch one person and you empower one person, then you're really empowering the many, because that person is going to lead you to more people.
You just blessed my complete soul. I am so serious, because I was like sitting here like saying to myself, like, Lord, what am I going to do? How am I going to get to, how do I get people to come? It's a Zoom, how, and then he speaks through you. Like he said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst. So here you come with what it is that I needed to hear that makes me feel better about just the people that's here, because this information is going to go out just like it used to go out when he only had, the small group of disciples. Each one of them took a bit out and it went all over the world. And now it's still all over the world and still growing. So I appreciate that, Reggie, so much. God bless you for that. I thank you very much for that, because my soul needed to really hear that, because That's where I'm at. I'm at a each one reach one and each one teach one, you know, and Miss Naomi and Natalia and Deb Baker and Tia and Sergeant Webb and everybody, all of us that's on here right now, we're all about this. We're all about this. That's the reason why we're all here. You know, some of these topics are like, you know, they seem like they're boring and they're just gonna blah, blah, blah. But when you sit and listen, the doctor just opened up a whole new world of how your heart works, changing everything. You know what I'm saying? And so now you come right behind it and explain to us about the insurance and everything, which kind of like, they're kind of like tied together in such a way, you know? And now we have an opportunity to now have a conversation between us talking about, you know, generational wealth and everything, how, you know, people like Aretha Franklin and Chadwick Boseman and Prince died with no wills, leaving all of that work that they did all those many years to what, where, who, and their families that could have gotten it, the generations that should have been receiving, especially in Aretha Franklin's family. That should have been a no-brainer. What's his name? James Brown died the same way. You know, it's a sad thing for Black families, because I'm reading this article right now, right in front of me. It's right on my other screen, and it tells me $68 trillion of transferred generational wealth will be missed out on by Black Americans because they don't have certain things to cover their final expenses and all of the things that you just talked about in insurance. They are saying that because of the fact that over 33% of the US House will have a will, according to a specific website. It said that meanwhile, 27.5% of Black Americans have one, up from 25.9% in 2020. Now, in spite of the growth, that's because of the fact COVID came and people started talking to people like Reggie, finding out more about insurance and everything. Now we have this thing over the next 25 years, an estimated $68 trillion will be transferred from US households to their heirs and charities, just what Reggie just said. And according to analysis of high net worth and ultra high net worth markets, without a plan in place, probate costs could be 3% to 8% of the value of the estimate, or the online estimate planning platform. I'm gonna go to the meat of the potatoes of it. So it says that if you haven't prepared to pay the taxes and get the mortgage covered, the home at will best will fall into despair, and worst of all, out of the hands of the family. It says, to be sure, Black Americans' median wealth is less than 15% of that of white families in the US, according to Federal Reserves. White families had a median wealth of $188,200 and compared to Black families of $24,100. Okay, I'm just reading the same thing. Median Black households' wealth was forecast to hit zero by 2053 in a 2017 report by Prosperity Now, the Institute for Policy Studies. Then the pandemic hit, disproportionately affecting Black communities, accelerating that timeline, and that, you know, that would focus on Blacks, Latinos, and LGBTQ families. So they're saying we're in a state of emergency now, not just a 2053 number anymore. It's here right now. So they're going on and they're saying, here's a sample of the documents that you're going to need, apart from the list, the last will and testament. So everybody knows there's a last will and testament. That's the final thing that you leave to everybody. But the durable power of attorney, this document lays out who can make final decisions for you in the event that you're incapacitated. So if you're in a coma in COVID, who's making your decisions? So nobody is there to make your decisions. So you need this thing called a durable power of attorney. I went online. They do have them online free of charge. You can print them out, download them, email them to yourself, and then use them at random. I found ones that I have on powerofattorney.com. That's the actual name of the website, powerofattorney.com. You go in, you select which ones you want, and you put in the state of New Jersey, and you download it, and you can print it out. The second thing that you need is a health care power of attorney. This designates someone to handle your medical decisions if you become sick and cannot make them for yourself. So people that have gotten COVID, gone into the hospital, incubated, tubes down their throat, knocked out. They can't say a word. No decision is being made for them, but whatever the doctors and nurses decide, because that thing doesn't exist. Because if that person had the power of attorney, they would be the ones that would have to be at the bedside of their loved one to help make these decisions. So this is very important that we as Black families have these things in place for our caregivers and our children and our grandchildren, so people will know what it is that we need. And a living will also called an advance directive. A living will is a document that expresses your wishes for medical treatments you would or would not want to use while to keep you alive, like resuscitation and incubation. A last will and testament spells out who you want to give your assets to after you die. It also allows you to name a guardian for any minor children that you may have. So these are the things that, as Reggie has explained to us, why it's important that we have these things in place. Don't wait until if you're younger, if you're a younger person or know a younger person, 20 years old, 21 years old is the time that you should actually start making your life, looking at your life for the future. Get your insurance early. Pay for it as you go along, because whole life insurance is going to pay you back at some point in time, but you still want to have insurance so that if you have the end of life, as Reggie said, the final expense policy, if you have that, it's already in place. That's already being taken care of. So you need to have something else to walk in its place. Jewish people do it, Asian people do it, Caucasians do it. I don't know who else in nationalities or whatever, but those are the three mains. We need to be able to do that too. Only some of our percentages, 27.5 out of 100% is not a big number. We need to be able to know what insurances we need and to make sure our children understand what is in that box. So that way they'll know, this is what mommy wanted, this is what grandma wanted, this is what she said, and it's in writing. Nothing matters if it's not in writing. If it's not signed, if it's not dated, if it's not notarized, it don't matter. So all of those things are something that you need to do. If you know a notary, do it all at one time. I have a whole pack of papers right here. Well, this is more than what I need. I added some extra ones. But this is for my mom, my dad, myself, and my husband. So we're going to get all this done at the same time. Take it to the same notary, let them notarize everything. Then that way I know exactly where I am and what I need to do. Because nobody knows when death is coming. It doesn't ring your doorbell. It doesn't do the ring system. It just shows up very ignorant, very arrogant, very, very, very bad person thing. And before you know it, life changes for everybody else. So we have to look at our generational wealth. And I'm going to segue right from there, from generational wealth, to talk about budgeting, because I want to open this conversation up because there's more women on this conversation than the men. But budgeting is something that we need to talk about and just have a very short conversation about it. It doesn't have to take very long. I'm going to give me 5 minutes because I want to do this real quick PSA for you. And then I'm going to go right into budgeting. So 5 minutes exactly. So my spotlight tonight for the small business is Corinne's. Miss Corinne's was established in 1989 on Haddon Avenue, 1254 Haddon Avenue. This year, Miss Corinne was awarded the prestigious James Beard Award given to locally owned restaurants that have timeless appeal and are beloved regionally for the quality foods that reflect the character of the community. Miss Corinne has been there for a while. She's done remarkable things in front of the scenes, behind the scenes, around the scenes. She stood up in COVID when nobody else could stand up in COVID. She fed firemen, she fed the EMT, she fed the police department, she fed everybody. She fed as many people as she could. She did and that's during COVID. This is what she did before COVID, hiring young people, bringing them in, allowing them to work at her place and learn a skill to take out there to become chefs themselves, or maybe open up their own restaurants. So we spotlight tonight Miss Corinne, and we really applaud her for receiving this award, because it was a well-deserved award, something that she didn't even know she was going to get. She wasn't paying no attention to it. Somebody called her up on the phone, told her about it. She's like, what? She did this. And next thing you know, there it was. PSAs. Lead poisoning And our remediation grant program is in place right now. I put in the chat the information to call the number that's in the chat on lead poisoning. Membership for PBCIP is also in the chat. That is only $12 for the year. Go to pbcip.org and you can do it right online. Fire safety, stoves, electrical fires, careless smoking, excessive articles near furnaces. Check your house. Do not just assume that your house is safe. Check your house. When you're cooking, do not walk away from the oil if you're frying chicken and it is too high. If you do not have a fire extinguisher near your stove, please get one. It's going to cost you less to get the extinguisher than it would for the fire. So get the extinguisher, or have baking soda, a lot of it close by, because you can drown a fire in baking soda. So careless smoking, if you smoke, don't smoke in bed. Don't smoke in your house. Don't smoke near anything that can burn. Just, the doctor just said, stop smoking. So that's a good reason to stop smoking. Downstairs in your basement, sometimes a lot of stuff gets really too close to the furnace and you can't see all of the heat that's coming from underneath of the thing, because that's fire that's coming up. Gas, if you have a gas burner, if you have which is forced air, or if you have oil, which is also heated by gas, and if you have radiators, which is also heated by gas, there's fire that comes up. And if it comes anywhere, you've got stuff close to it, it is going to catch fire. So move everything away from your furnaces. Daylight savings time. Daylight savings time is going to happen on Sunday, March 13th at 2 a.m. That's the spring forward. That lose that hour. We got to get up 1 hour earlier. Everybody's going to be happy and unhappy at the same time. This is where I got two more. 3G networks are shutting down. This is the most important thing I can talk to y'all about. If you have a phone, it's a 3G phone. If you have a phone, it's called an Obama phone. If you have a phone that you've had before 2000 and you still have the same phone, it's a 3G phone. Those networks are shutting down. AT&T shut down yesterday, 2/22/22. So if you had a 3G phone, your phone would blank. You can't send a message. You can't call 911. You can't do anything. This 3D shutdown is also affecting people's home security systems. It's also affecting the life monitors that they may have at their homes. It's also affecting anything that was under 3G manufacturing at the time that it was made. So a lot of older things are 3G. A lot of newer things are going into 4, and they're trying to get it 4 and 5G. Like I said, AT&T shut down on the 22nd. T-Mobile merged with Sprint in 2020, March of 2020, and they're due to shut down July 1st, 2022. Verizon is going to shut down December 31st, 2022. And Cricket operates under AT&T's network under their 3G, so they shut down yesterday as well, along with AT&T. Boost is owned by Dish Company now. So Boost Mobile is now owned by Dish, and we don't have a date on when they're actually going to shut down. So that's a whole nother thing. Spread the word about the 3G. There's going to be people, that's older people that have the Obama phones that they got free. They're going to shut down and they're not going to know what to do. That may be their only lifeline to being in touch with anybody. So if you know anybody that has them, please spread the word. Put it out there in any lifeline that you got so that people will know. Little tidbits. Yesterday was a palindrome. A palindrome is a date that can be read the same way backwards and forwards. So 2202, 2202 was yesterday. And it's also called an ambigram, which means you can turn it upside down and you can still read it, which is one of the craziest things that I ever saw in my life, but I thought it was so cool. I said, I got to share this with my crew. I got to share it. Free expungement event at the Kroc Center on April 29th from 10 to 4 p.m., 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Kroc Center, April 29th. I didn't put this in the chat. I'm sorry, I got this late. The number is 1-800-496-4570 to register. Councilman Collins sent this to me, our ward leader, our ward councilman. So that's April 29th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Kroc Center. The number again is 496-4570. And that's so you can register. All right, that takes care of all of my PSAs. And now we can have an open conversation on budgeting. So I'm gonna open the door. Since this whole thing started, since COVID started, even before COVID started, we were going through like how to like just keep enough money to pay the bills and buy the food. And one time they told us that the food prices had gone up because the gas prices had gone up and the trucks cost more and the planes cost more and everything cost more to get from point A to point B. Then COVID hit. Then everything was like all regular price and you could afford it. And then all of a sudden after COVID started supposedly being vaccinated, everything started to increase. So the prices are increasing. How are you, not telling me your business, but how are you handling your budget now with all of this new inflation all around you? Gas prices are somewhere close to like $4.5 to $5.6 a gallon. So that's a whole nother issue. So how are you handling it? Anybody want to go? I'm ready. Miss Naomi, I see you.
As
Tell
far
me
as
how, tell me how
gas,
you're handling this thing. How are you handling this
well, as
your
far as the
disinflation?
gas thing, I tell people to not let their gas tank go empty. If you fill it
Mhm.
up at half tank, you're spending less money. So
Mhm.
that's, I mean, as far as food is concerned, I mean, we need to cut down on some of the things we've been buying anyway,
Mhm.
get what is healthy.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Um, so all these moratoriums about to end for rents and mortgages and utilities and everything, and like everything's gonna come in like great big and implode on everybody. So I mean, are you guys ready for everything? If you're a working class, you've been paying everything the whole entire time and nothing bothers you, good to go. But there's gonna be a whole lot of people crying that I ain't got it, and this happened to me, and that happened to me. So, Italia, how are you handling this?
Our family, we collaborate more. We put a lot of
Mhm.
things on a schedule, on a calendar.
Uh-huh.
Like for instance, we might have my mother may cook a meal, but it'll cover 3 houses. So we're not
Mhm.
all at the stove. If we have 2 people going to the same place, like for instance, I'm lucky enough to work in the vicinity that she works in. We carpool. Instead
Mhm.
of taking 2 cars to the same area, we'll just even going shopping. I have somebody waiting for me now after this meeting. Instead of
Okay.
taking 3 cars to the one store, no, we're going to make the run for everybody to make sure that we
Oh.
all have the essentials. So it does take a lot of planning and strategy. Sometimes people might fall off, but it works for us because we
Mhm.
have school-age children and I have college-age children.
Mhm.
So we just try to make sure that everybody has their part to play, so it doesn't
Mhm.
just fall on one household.
One of the things that I had noticed that I was looking at, I went to Aldi's. So I shop at Aldi's. I shop everywhere actually. But Aldi's, some of the food, when you look at it, all the food has the dates on it. They have dates on it, date stamp. Okay. And I know the majority of maybe us here, maybe Natalia, you may be the youngest one on this group, but we used to have food that didn't have date stamps on it. So our canned goods didn't have date stamps on it. The bread didn't have date stamps on it. It didn't have date stamps on it. And then all of a sudden, date stamps showed up with everything. And I come to find out that I was doing some more research, and there is so much food being wasted because people are throwing food away because the date says use by this date. You've got a sell by date, a use by date, a best if used by date. Okay. You got all these 3 different types of dates on here, and all people see is the date. If it goes 1 day past the day that is said that it's going to die, they throw it in the trash. All of that ends up at the landfill. All of that turns into greenhouse gases, and all of that makes what should be snow outside rain, and what should be cold outside warm. So this is what people have been doing, throwing away food like crazy. Canned goods were built to last. They were built to last. They don't last forever, but they were built to last. So when you look inside of your can, you let your eyes, your nose, and your own, senses say, that ain't no good no more. We ain't eating that. Or, okay, that stuff is still good. I can handle it. Some people throw away stuff that's one day after one whole day. Even milk. If milk is kept at a certain temperature, even though it says best by date on it, if that milk is at, like I said, your taste buds, your smell, and the whole nine will let you know whether that milk is wrong. So we have to stop throwing away stuff just because they stamped it, because that's the way they're getting more money out of us. We are the $670 some trillion group of people that invest into the communities. We invest into the government. We invest into the United States. If it wasn't for our money, they wouldn't be running. They wouldn't have anything. It's our money that's running them. Buying clothes, going to the store, going out, buying food, whatever we do, all of our stuff is always higher. Our credit scores are lower. So they want to give us that, okay, you can only get it this way. So it's always a catch with the Black community until we start talking about it. That's what Dr. King told us. He said, we have to come together, just like Natalia said, you have to come together as a family and talk about what you need so that everybody's not doing the exact same thing and you're multiplying for their good. Because it's only the guy that's all the way at the top that's making the money. Even the guy that's down there that's ringing the food up ain't making no money. He's at $15 to $17 an hour. It's the dude that's sitting up there doing nothing that's making all the money. So Tia, I see you on here. Waiting for you to show your face. There you go. So how you doing? What's your budget thing? What do you do? How do you make this thing work? You still muted. There
Oh,
you go.
sorry. Hello, everybody. Hello. Well, it's just me at home. So the budget's not really that bad. It's just a matter of making sure that I have what I need. And I agree with Miss Naomi. I did cut back on some of the stuff that I didn't need to have. It was putting weight on me, and it's a cost a little more. So I'm making healthier choices when I go to the
Absolutely.
grocery store. And basically the bill situation is basically the same way it's always been. You just do the best that you can, trying to keep up with everything and pay very close attention to all these different relief programs and the wording and stuff. I'm learning. You gotta really be careful because it may not mean what it's saying. So, but overall I'm blessed. God wakes me up every morning and I'm still here. And thank you for having this evening because it was very informative.
It really was. And like I said,
really
Reggie
was.
gave the blessing when he said that, it's only, you don't need a whole lot of people to have a good meeting, so I'm enjoying this myself. I am looking at, we've been talking about our meetings and we want to make them more open like this, where it's a back and forth kind of conversation, because it should be a part where the doctors give you information like she did. And, Reggie gives you information like he did, because we do need to absorb knowledge, but then we should have conversation about what are we doing and how are we making it work. And, what's going on in our neighborhoods and our individual areas where we live at, what's the safety looking like? How are people surviving according to what you can see? And what can we share with one another? So everybody does. PBCIP don't have all the answers. I do not have all the answers. I need feedback. So, I'm gonna go down to our police department, which I'm always grateful that they're always there. They'll always show up, even, when, there's not very much going on like tonight. So Officer Baker, I can see you're on. So as an officer, I'm gonna wait for you to come in and see where you are.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So tell me how
Okay,
you handle,
sorry.
your budget with your work and everything. How are you handling that?
I'm holding up pretty good. I'm pretty much doing all the things that the previous people before me have stated, cutting costs where I can, bringing my lunch more, trying to at least, trying to eat a little bit more healthier. Like Tia has said, cutting out things I don't need. And things like what Natalia said, trying to team up with my mom, which I live with, and cut costs that way. not buying the same thing twice. If one of us bought it already, we don't need to buy it again unless it's like personal items. But that's pretty much how I'm holding up.
That's good. That's really good. I'm understanding that there's a whole family thing that's being developed here where people like, even though Tia's living by herself, she understands what she needs to do in her own individual thing. Miss Naomi, she got, grandkids and stuff and whatever. And, Natalia's doing the whole family thing as it is and everything. Reggie, how are you guys, how are you holding up with this whole, inflation thing that's going on right now and how the budgeting is affecting your household?
Well, I mean, with the prices going up on everything, it really is putting pressure on your budget. I like the idea of filling up your tank when it's half full. And good reason to do that is that gas prices are going up. So if you wait till your tank is empty, you're going to have to pay more because the price is going to be high. So, filling up your tank when it's half full, you're probably getting a cheaper price.
Right.
So that's a great idea, and I try to do that as much as I can. The hardest thing is the unseen things, the unexpected things that hit your budget. Didn't budget for, and that throws your whole budget a little crazy. And what I found is that if you talk to people, that they will work with you and work out a plan with you. I had to make a deposit, a $600 deposit. And when the guy said, well, we need a deposit by, I think, February 3rd. I called him and I said, listen, I need a couple weeks. And some other things came up, so I didn't have a deposit, had a big business expense. So I reached out to him today and I said, listen, I'm probably not going to have that deposit for you until the middle of next month. But in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll break it up into 3 payments, and I'll do $200 and $200 and $200. He said, fine. When are you going to make the first $200 payment? I said, next week. And he said, great. So a lot of times you can talk to creditors or people and just work out something so that, the biggest thing is that you communicate with people. And you're able to, work things out, because once again, you have your budget, then all of a sudden you got this unexpected thing. You go to get your oil changed and tires rotated and they tell you, oh, well, you need brakes.
Just like that. Just like that out of the clear blue, like you need brakes.
Right. And if you're at a car dealership, that means, you're looking at $400, $500.
Yes.
Because if they say you need brakes on just the front, you need brakes on the front and the back.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Absolutely.
So I came here for the $69.99 special. So but things come up. So how do you handle those things? And so obviously you need your car, so you got to take care of what you need to take care of. But sometimes you can say, listen, which brakes do we need to do today, and which
today? Do I need the brakes done that's going to stop the car? That's the ones I need done.
Okay. So we'll do the front today, and we'll come back and do the back next month.
Exactly. You are so right with that. You are so right with that.
You have to work with those unexpected expenses.
Yes.
And a lot of times those things have to be taken care of, but you got to still fit them into your budget. So talk to the people and see what you can work out. I remember with COVID, I was talking to my son, and he lives in Montclair, New Jersey. And I think his rent was like $2,400 a month. And and he's in the real estate business. So obviously, when COVID hit, nobody was going nowhere. We're all in lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, he said, "Listen, I have about, I saved up about 6 months worth, my bills and everything." And I said, "That's really great. You were raised right."
Absolutely.
And he had just had a baby, my granddaughter.
Oh.
And, so the 6 months was really saved up because he knew he wasn't going to be working, taking care of the baby and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him, I said, "Listen, you should talk to your landlord and see if he can, work with you and everything." So he called his landlord, and the landlord told him that, I told him, see if he could take less for a few months and then he could make it up some other time. And the guy said, "No, I really can't do that because, I have other tenants." He said, what I can do is, I think he gave him a month free and, just gave him a month free.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because he asked.
Right. If you don't talk to people, they will not know what it is that you need. And since this COVID thing has started, all of the creditors and, any people, like in the beginning, it's at least, they were willing to work with you. I pay all my bills online. Okay. And I have a very secure thing on my computer. And I pay all my bills online. And as I'm paying my bills, this big red thing is coming up across the top saying, "If you have had a COVID-19 experience and you are having difficulty making your payments, please contact us at this number." And I'm like, whoa. And you call them, and when you call them, you actually they actually walk you through it and talk to you and tell you things about what it is that they're doing and how you can make these payments easily without going through it. I got a 2007 Honda. I will not trade it in. I don't care. It's 118,000 miles. I don't care. But every time something happens to it, I take it to the same mechanic. And because I've been going to him for so long, when I went there for something that was slightly major, he said, "Look, I'm not going to charge you all of that." He said, "You just pay me this amount and we're good." So this is what people are learning about how to work with others. They're learning that, yeah, I'm here to make my money. Like the landlord, he's going to make his money, but $2,400 wasn't going to kill him, not, for a young father who's, trying to do whatever, and he can't go out here to work because of something that is not even his fault. So people have learned how to do a lot of things, during this pandemic. But this is kind of weird to me because it used to be like this before. Like when our grandparents were kids and young people growing up, that's all they knew was how to share with each other and network with each other and make things stretch out and have whole family dinners have whole family come over for dinner so they can feed everybody at this house that night and then feed somebody else at another house another night, and it wouldn't take nothing out of either one of the houses. So this is kind of like COVID just brought back what we already had, just made us tighter so that we could do better and, do more. And I also say those unexpected things, all right, I learned this a little bit early in life, and I am not a math nothing. I have no math experience behind me, not an accountant, nothing. I don't even know how I know what I know. But somebody told me you're supposed to have 4 pockets. It's the needs pocket, which is to take care of all your needs. That's all the things that you got to do. Then you've got the rainy day pocket, which is that unexpected thing that you never notice coming. Then you've got the just in case something happens that the rainy day can't handle. You got that as the backup. And then you got your wants pocket. Your wants pocket is supposed to be the smallest one. Like whatever you want is supposed to be the smallest one. But the other two, the 2 in the middle, are supposed to be packed. And your other one is supposed to be month to month. And I started doing that when I was working for a credit union. And I did it for years, just automatically. All the change that came off of my paycheck, if my paycheck was, I'm just going to use a round number, $553.73, $53.73 went away. It went away automatically. I didn't know about the 10% rule. I didn't even know. but I just did it automatically. Like, all right, I'll just put all of the change over there. And it kept building and building. And then I opened up accounts for my children. And each one of them, I put $5 in every pay period until they were 18 years old. And then when they were 18 years old, I gave them a debit card. So these are things that we can just do because they're there to do. You know, we don't have to really struggle. And I really applaud the Black families and the brown families on how we do what we do. You know, a lot of us are going into like, you know, natural cookings, and a lot of us are doing, you know, our own hair now, you know, naturally. And a lot of us are doing a lot of things that we were taught to do instead of, you know, going out and buy. Listen, going out to dinner is not pretty anymore. I'm sorry. Yeah, you can go to Olive Garden, you can go to Brio, you can go to Cheesecake Factory. Don't even matter where you go. They are expensive. 2 people is running at least $65, $70. 2 people. That's yes, sir.
McDonald's.
Oh, man. We thought that was the saving grace, and it's not. You go to McDonald's for 4 people and you could spend like $70. It's But the fact of the matter is, as we are growing through this thing and we're all going through what we're going through, we have to stay focused and stay close to each other. That's the empowerment of our community. It's just staying close to each other. We all see who we are right here. You want to see each other on the streets. You got phone numbers. You want to exchange with each other. The chat is right there. Put your phone number in there, you know? So then that way people can be in touch with each other. Miss Naomi sends me some of the best stuff ever. I don't know where she gets it from. She'd be sending me things and I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do that. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go get that. You know, and Tia Rogers, she does the same thing. She's got little businesses and she sends me stuff. And everybody is working together, which works out. You know, I see Valia has joined us. And she, you know, she's done the same thing, keeping in touch with everything and, you know, budgeting and how to make clothes, and she makes her own foods, and, you know, she's got soups that people die for and cakes that people want and everything, all kinds of stuff. So it's so many different ways to grow an entrepreneurship without even having a whole lot to do, and make it work within your own communities and your families, because that's the larger part of everything.
Sheila,
So yes, sir.
I have another Zoom I got to jump on.
We're getting ready to close. I'm getting ready to shut down.
I wanted to do a PSA.
Okay.
I saw a movie / documentary last night, and it was so powerful that I have to share it with everyone.
All right.
It is called Subject of Desire.
Ooh.
It's a commentary on the beauty of Black women in America. And I saw it on Stars, but it's also on Hulu and on Prime Video.
Oh, I got Prime.
Some of the people that are interviewed in it are India.Arie. She did, you know, I Am Not My Hair.
Okay, yeah.
The white woman who was head of the NAACP.
Yes.
She's interviewed in it, and she has an interesting story.
All right.
And there's a young sister from Philadelphia that's in it. They kind of focus on the Miss Black America pageant.
Okay.
So, but it really, you know, and I can relate to this because growing up in the 60s, I was brainwashed into the beauty being a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman. That's all I saw. That's all was in the magazines, on TVs, and the movies, and so I had to reprogram my own self to appreciate the beauty of Black women. And you know, but I had to do it. I mean, it was just it. I mean, I had been brainwashed, and so this movie touches on all that. And one of the things that really shocked me was the fact that some of these issues young Black women are still dealing with, whether it be light skin versus dark skin, and all the hair issues, and the legal issues regarding hair. few cases that are brought up there, and it's just it's really a good really good, well done movie / documentary. So I strongly recommend it
Subject of Desire, right?
Subject of Desire.
Okay.
Especially
Hulu,
for
Prime Video.
any young any young sisters. I mean, they really would appreciate that, because, you know, I mean, we know about self-love, and we know what this society, how it projects us in a lot of negative lights. And so, you know, a lot of our young people are still internalizing the negativity, and not understanding the beauty of being a Black person.
Well, that is one of the most, that coming from a man, that's that's a lot, especially a Black man that had been, you know, and we understand, Reggie, they brainwashed us too. They told us that we were supposed to be, you know, lighter than what we are. Our hair was supposed to be all stringy and hanging down, and we were supposed to have blue eyes. You know what I'm saying? So our nose is supposed to be pointed and, you know, small, and cheekbones are supposed to be cut. All this stuff was supposed to be wrong.
But the thing about it is they go into the fact that now, you know, everybody wants big lips and a big butt.
Come on now. Tell the truth. That's exactly what they're doing. And you walk around, I mean, they are paying for these behinds, actually. You know what I'm saying? You know, getting stuff shot into their lips, got lips bigger than all of us. I'm like, what?
And then they talk about the phenomena of braids when Bo Derek got her braids, the movie 10, you know.
Yeah.
So it covers a lot. It talks about the stereotypes of the Mammy and Jezebel and Sapphire. And the funniest thing is when they try to make Michelle Obama an angry Black woman.
Oh.
Now, there's no woman more sophisticated, more educated, and more classy than Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama, that's
so
right.
How do you make her the angry Black woman? But they'll do it to anybody. If
they'll try anyway.
So anytime a sister speaks up, she's an angry Black woman. Like, they can't just speak up and take a stand for themselves or their family. If they do that, then angry Black woman.
The angry Black woman.
The angry Black woman.
Yeah.
So
they don't understand Black women's passion. They don't understand our passion. We have a passion.
There's beauty in the passion.
Yeah, so there's a beauty, and
but
we have to see it ourselves first, and then we have to let it radiate out. You know,
absolutely. But that movie touches on so many things, so it's a great, you know, it's a great movie to take a look at. So I'm doing my PSA on that one. And ladies, gentlemen, I had a great time. Please invite me back again.
Yes, I will.
And matter of fact, I'll just be tuning in because I learned something myself because of the doctor reinforcing some of my budgeting concepts, and hopefully, you know, people learned a little bit about life insurance tonight. So everybody have a blessed evening, and look forward to speaking to you or interfacing with you soon.
Thank you, Reggie. Thank you so much. And with that,
welcome.
everybody, we are going to come into our conclusion. So I really want to thank everybody for being here. I thank Natalia, Miss Naomi, Tia, Deb Baker, Sergeant Webb, and Miss B. I thank you all for being here. Please share the information and tell people to go to the website. This was a good meeting that they missed, but they can see it on pbcip.org. It won't be the same as, you know, what it is right now. And they're going to hear me say that you missed it, but, but it's going to be okay. So our next meeting will be in March, and it's Women's Health and History Month. Ladies, let's bring it. We got to bring it, okay? We got a lot to talk about. That's going to be on March 30th, the last Wednesday of March. God willing, we'll all be here. If you have any ideas, please send them to me at sgreen@pbcip.org. Any ideas, anything that you would like to talk about while we're doing our Women's History and Health Month. So I'm gonna try to get the doctor to come back because I would love to have her, you know, go forward and do more of what she did tonight. and try to get some more. But we're trying to make it a little more livelier on the next go round. I'm gonna do something different. I hope. I like this interfacing. I like this. This was good. This was good. This is really good. So anytime you guys find me, I'm a long-winded woman. So anytime you find me talking too much, put that hand up in the chat like, chill, yo. So then that way, you know I got to slow down. Bridget does it to me all the time. She'll do me like this, but I enjoyed this. Thank you guys so much for being here. And please utilize what Reggie gave you about the insurance. If you don't know or you're not sure, sit down with family members, older people, find out what you got to do and just do that. Miss Naomi, you got anything?
Yeah, the Parkside on the Black History program Friday from 6 to 8.
What program is that?
Croc Center.
Croc Center. Okay.
Yeah, 6 to 8.
6 to 8. Tia,
Yeah,
you got anything?
And tomorrow at the
No, go ahead, Miss Naomi. Go ahead.
I said tomorrow at the Ritz Theater in the White Horse Pike, they're having a Black History program also. And they're featuring African cuisine. And I'm personally supposed to be there. It's a whole program through the society.
Okay. All right. And if there's nobody else has any PSAs, Tia, you got any?
I just wanted to invite everyone from March 6th to March 13th. I'm having a virtual Zoom panel, and it's called Growing, Learning, and Healing. We all do it. I'm either working or minding my business. And because I have such a variety of businesses, anyone that's interested in credit, travel, peer-to-peer counseling, you can find me on Facebook, plug on in, have them register and participate.
So Tia, could you send that to me so that we can put it on our e-blast?
Yeah, I sure can.
Yeah, send it to me. We'll put it on our e-blast. And
Okay.
Miss Naomi, if you got those, you can send them to me. You can send them in a text message, and I'll send them over to Miosha for tomorrow. Maybe she can get them on there because she'll have them in the e-blast for next week. So, Natalia, you have anything? No? Okay. Miss B, you got anything?
Nope, I'm cool.
Okay. All right. So Sergeant Webb and I keep calling her Captain Baker. I'm gonna make this girl a captain if it's the last thing I do. And Officer Baker, we thank you guys again for coming out, and Sergeant Webb, please check in with Reggie on that insurance thing. So that'll be a good thing for you. That's really good. I'm glad you showed up. I'm glad you showed up.
Absolutely. This
God,
is good.
works
I was listening to
weird.
everybody.
That weird, ain't he? He's weird. Just do all kinds of crazy things for you. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
I appreciate this. Thank you.
Good. So I look forward to seeing everybody in March. We are looking at possibly doing a women's health town hall in May. I'm talking to a few people about it now. So if you see a flyer, we're on it. If you don't see a flyer, it didn't happen. And we're also looking at maybe doing some type of town halls in between. Like, I don't know exactly, but in April is going to be Environmental Month. So it's going to be really like hopping in Parkside because we're going to be cleaning and pruning trees and planting trees and doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm really going to be working on that with various people just to, make sure that we are going to do that. We got bike rides coming up, walks coming up. So just watch the website. Everything's coming slowly but surely. It's just coming on the website, and you'll be informed on everything. And if you're a member, you'll automatically get an email on everything. So if you're not a member, go to pbcip.org and just become a member, and you'll have all the information. So ladies, thank you so very much. I appreciate you and I worship you. And listen, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever you feel, be the real person that you are. Try not to do it for somebody else. Just do it for you. Watch you be a lot happier. Okay? Peace to everybody. Love you all. Take care.